All right, guys, welcome back. Another day, another video. I hope everyone had a great Easter, had a great weekend. So there isn't too much news to talk about, but there is some stuff here about the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition. Let's just start off right here with this article here from Tweaktown. As we know, with the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition, the main thing that Xbox is wanting from this deal is the mobile side of gaming. It's going to help them grow on the mobile side of gaming, which they really don't have very much presence whatsoever. It's going to help them have the ability to potentially make a store to actually go and compete with Google Play and the Apple App Store, which would be massive, I think, for everybody, because those are the two main stores. They own the entire market, and there really is no competition anywhere close to be coming on the way. And if Microsoft can get in there with all of the mobile games that are available via Activision Blizzard and make a specific Xbox mobile store where people use that store to download their games, all that type of stuff, it will create competition for Google Play and for the Apple App Store, specifically when it comes to the mobile gaming side of things. And they'll need these games, obviously, to do this. So that is the main thing. So I do believe when Microsoft says that mobile gaming is the reason they want to get this acquisition, I believe they are telling the truth. At Call of Duty, we've seen everything going on with Call of Duty, and they've offered Call of Duty to literally everybody. That alone, I think, proves that Call of Duty isn't the main reason they want this deal. But they have some interesting numbers here in terms of Candy Crush, and it really shows just how big the mobile side of gaming is. Apparently, Candy Crush has been downloaded 3 billion times, which obviously makes it a massive target for the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And in terms of their monthly active users, they have 233 million monthly active users. That's what they've had throughout Q4 of 2022, and $5.5 billion of revenue that has been generated in the past 7 years. So those are just absolutely massive numbers. And you have to keep in mind, monthly active users now is that metric that a lot of people are looking at that seemingly is going to be more important than things like console sales, especially as the generations continue to go forward, as the gaming industry expands, as subscription becomes bigger, as cloud gaming becomes bigger. The thing that's going to be most important is going to be monthly active users, and then how much generated revenue are coming from these monthly active users. The more users you have, obviously, the more money you're going to make. So you're going to want to continuously be increasing that. And if this deal does go through, this is crazy. Xbox will be able to actually start saying they have a whopping 353 million monthly active users across all of their platforms, consoles, PC, and mobile devices. And this is a massive thing for a couple of reasons. One, we see those financial reports every quarter that Microsoft puts out. They can now use these insane numbers to really prop up the perception of how well their business is doing it. And I mean, they wouldn't be lying, because technically all of these monthly active users from these King games, from Diablo Immortal, from Call of Duty Warzone Mobile, all of these big games, those would be considered part of the Xbox ecosystem. So they can use these numbers to prop up their numbers and show how successful their monthly active users are. And then obviously the other big thing for Microsoft, what they're probably thinking about is this is really good for investors. I mean, if they go to these meetings now, they're telling investors just how many active users there are. The investors will be happy. The stockholders will be happy. So they're going to be able to use these numbers, whether you think it's legitimate or not, to jump from where they currently are with monthly active users and then going all the way up to 353 million. It's going to be insane. Now, Todd Green from King had this to say in terms of King, in terms of the acquisition. He says, "We continue to focus on King in our business, but what I can say is that King is excited about the possibilities the merger could bring. Microsoft has said that an important part of the deal is their ability to expand into the mobile space. We're thrilled that King could be a part of that potential future, although we continue to operate as two separate companies for now." So obviously, once the deal goes through, it'll be a big change. We'll see how they are incorporated into the Xbox ecosystem. And you see things already starting on the mobile side of things with the Doom game that just came out on your mobile phone. I've played it a little bit. It's actually pretty fun, but the one thing is, it is obviously a mobile game. It's going to be appealing to, I think, a different crowd of gamers, people who want to just jump in quickly, casually play through, try to get a high score. It's nowhere near going to be on anytime soon on the same level as somebody who sits down and plays a console game or plays something through the cloud. Just not the same experience whatsoever, but it is a different base of gamers, because you think about people who sit down, play consoles, like for example, Resident Evil 4 just came up. People who play Resident Evil 4 versus people who are playing mobile games. You wouldn't put them in the same category, in my opinion, for like a business perspective. Whereas you have people of all ages who don't really consider themselves gamers jump in to mobile gaming, and that's where Microsoft is thinking that I think they need to head. And you everything's come full circle when it comes to Xbox with this if this acquisition goes through. Xbox One, what was the thing that they mentioned when they launched the Xbox One or when they announced the Xbox? What were they trying to do? If you remember, they were trying to make Xbox appeal to a broader range of people with the entire TV thing. It was your entertainment box, and it wasn't just for gaming, and that completely backfired. Definitely taught Xbox a lesson, as the Series X and S we have now, when they launched it, when they announced it, and the reveal clearly was focused only on hardcore gaming, which is what consoles should be focused on. Hardcore gaming, that's it. Just big AAA games, indie games, stuff that gamers want is what consoles should be focused on. So they learned their lesson from the Xbox One, but they definitely didn't abandon, I guess, that ideology of what they want to do with Xbox, which is expand it to everybody as broadly as possible, whether it's through mobile, through the cloud, or through the console and PC, where you get like the real hardcore gamers. And this is what this deal, I think, is really going to help them do, because it isn't hardcore gamers playing Candy Crush. It isn't hardcore gamers even playing that Doom game. It is people who have a phone. Everyone has a phone, who just want to pass 30 minutes here, time on the bus, bored at work, stuff like that. Those are the people that are going to be jumping in to Candy Crush, at least in my opinion. That's the way I see it. So their strategy is coming full circle, and I think this is kind of that key to that strategy for them as we move forward. And they're going to be able to focus on everyone, which is what they seemingly want to do. Now, when it comes to the deal, there is a little bit of information here that IDAS put out on Reset Era. And specifically, someone asked the question about appealing the decision. Let's say the deal goes through. Can PlayStation appeal? And the answer is yes, they can appeal. The question is, would they appeal? Everything that they have argued so far seemingly has been kind of shut down as the regulatory bodies continue to look at the facts. We saw the thing with the CMA and consoles and saying that there will be no effect really on the consoles. It will not give Microsoft the ability to partially or fully foreclose PlayStation. So the console theory of harm just has been destroyed. And we saw PlayStation rebuttal against that, saying that their decision was irrational, and they didn't bring anything new to the table essentially as to why they thought it was rational, other than one section where everything was redacted in terms of numbers. So that maybe will change everything. We don't know, but highly doubtful that it will change anything. But let's say right now, as it seems like the CMA and the European Commission are leading to passing this deal, what can Sony do? And IDAS kind of breaks it down here. He says, in Europe, if Sony appeals the decision, they must show that it causes a direct and individual concern for them. Article 263 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union. As a competitor for the emerging parties, I think that they should be able to argue in that sense. After all, competitors are a major source of third-party appeals. However, appealing the decision wouldn't have a suspensory effect. So it wouldn't suspend the deal if they go ahead and appeal it. So the person was asking, what if they did appeal, would we have to wait longer for them to make their decision on the appeal before the deal could fully close? And apparently, according to IDAS, it says it wouldn't have a suspensory effect. He says, then Sony could request the president of the General Court, the court that would review the decision from the European Commission in the first instance, to suspend the act, which is the decision, or adopt some other intermeasure. But Sony would be able to show that adopting such a measure is urgent. For example, something like pure financial loss, as Jermaine implied to the CMA when he said our business would never recover. Something he keeps saying, that like Call of Duty is the pillar of the business, and if we lose Call of Duty, or if anything happens to Call of Duty at all, it's degraded at all, our business is finished. He says, is only considered irreparable if it threatens the existence of the applicant Sony or irreparably modifies its market share. And it's hard to argue in this case. So they would have to argue that this deal would completely shut down their business. Because in any case, the General Court will always balance the interests of Sony against the interests of Microsoft, Activision Blizzard, and the importance of maintaining effective competition before granting a request for suspension or similar measure. If Sony cannot temporarily suspend the decision, and depending on the procedure, they would have to wait between 1 and 3 years before the general court reaches a judgment about it. And then in the UK, it's very similar, just a different time period. So basically the European Commission, it would be 2 months to appeal, whereas with the CMA, it'd be 4 weeks you'd have to wait to appeal against the CMA. So there it is. They can appeal. You would have to show extremely strong case to have this deal suspended whatsoever, and that's very unlikely. And if they can't get it suspended, they would actually have to wait between 1 and 3 years before the general court reaches a judgment about the deal. So keep that in mind. I mean, Sony seemingly is going to do everything in their power to try to stop this deal, and I would not be surprised if the deal does get passed in the European Commission, in the European Union, and with the CMA, if they go ahead and try to appeal to stop the deal. I mean, their cards have been laid on the table. Their public perception when it comes to this has already completely been destroyed. They have nothing to lose at this point than to do everything in their power, even after the decision has made, to try to uphold, to try to hurt this deal in any way possible, make it drag out longer if they want to spend all that money and stuff, I guess, in court to go ahead and try to get this deal decision reversed. But we'll see what happens, whether they do that or not, and we won't know until the final decisions are made, which would be the end of April here, coming up very soon, a couple of weeks here for the European, or for the CMA, and then May 22nd is the final date for the European Commission. That's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the power of King and how it's going to affect the Xbox and Microsoft numbers when it comes to their monthly active users. And do you think Sony will go ahead and appeal the decision made on the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition if it does go through? If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.